Welcome to Office Hours on Asana, presented by Tray.io. We'll be covering all the things you would need to know to integrate Asana to many other web apps and really do an open format and open question and answer as well. Let's jump into quick housekeeping items. First off is that the audio on this webinar is in listen-only mode, so please submit your questions via chat in the webinar software. And lastly, we'll record this session, so you can get an email with it after the program in about a day or so. So no need to take notes. We'll send you the recording. Next, I'd like to introduce our Asana experts here at Tray. We've got Andrew Weissman, hailing from the great state of Virginia, and we have Chris Houghton, hailing from the great country of Great Britain. And they're both customer success engineers here at Tray with many years of experience in both computer science, automation, and integration, and have also rolled up their sleeves to help our customers integrate and automate Asana to many different applications. We're really excited to have them here and ready to pass the ball to them. First off, the question is probably coming up in your mind, what is Tray? Well, it's pretty easy. We're a cloud data integration and automation platform for enterprises and fast-growing companies. And really what we're doing differently from some of the older software out there is making sure that our software is easy enough for business people to own and implement their own integrations. So what that means is you'll see a lot of drag and drop interfaces and easy to use features to do so. We also have a flexible platform, so we can get done any level of complexity at an enterprise. And then finally, we've built a platform here that can scale up to many billions of transactions a day, and then also cover terabytes of data within the platform, so really enterprise scale platform. The next question in your mind might be, is Asana and Tray a partner? Well, the answer is yes. We recently announced a global strategic partnership, and you can read more about that on Asana's blog or even Tray's blog. So we're very proud to be a partner to Asana. Tray has worked with a wide variety of Asana customers. We're highlighting just a small subset, but companies like Ford and Zycus and Vox and Northwell Health and Mod all have Asana, and they have all successfully integrated Asana to other applications within their software stack. As you can see, it's really departments that are doing this work, and no longer just the IT team that are implementing integrations. And that's really the big news for today, and really the big trend in software computing and SaaS computing is a move towards citizen automators, and we're a platform to help you do that. Next question on your mind might be, what are some of the common integrations with Asana? And today we'll cover just a small subset, but there are many more options out there. One of our most popular integrations is integrating Asana to Salesforce, also Asana to Slack and Jira and Google Docs and Google Sheets, and we'll also cover a couple other ones like ProsperWorks, Harvest, and Pipedrive. So with that, I'd like to pass it to Andrew and Chris to talk to you more about how to actually get these integrations done and some of the questions we're seeing from Asana customers.
Thanks, Alex, for that introduction. So yeah, this is Chris speaking. As we mentioned in the email, we've had a few questions sent to us before this webinar, but certainly feel free to ask any questions as you go on this webinar. We've also got a quick demo that we can show you. But in terms of how we're going to structure this, as Alex mentioned, there's quite a few different tools that we integrate with, but we're going to focus primarily on Salesforce and also a bit on Google Forms integration as well. So I'm just going to hand over to Andrew now, who's going to walk us through a quick demo specifically of the Salesforce integration. What we're expecting to see here is a workflow which will automatically create projects in Asana when opportunities in Salesforce are created. But I'll hand over to Andrew to walk through that.
Thanks, Chris. So we're just going to show you one of our pre-configured quick start templates, which essentially just is showcasing a very common use case between Asana and Salesforce that we see. We have a small set of templates, but we find most of our integrations need a very custom solution. So this is showing a pretty common use case. Our templates are generally either used for solving your initial use case and also as a good framework for building on. So to get to these templates, what you'll do is you'll go to your dashboard, you'll go to Library, and then you'll search for, we'll say Asana for this demo. And the one that we're going to be showing you is, let's see, where are we here? It is create new Asana projects from new Salesforce opportunities. So all you're going to do to install this is just use the template. You're going to create the name, whatever you want. So I'm going to say my trade demo. Then from there, you're just going to walk through a couple of quick configuration steps. It's a little quick start guide, just making sure you have the right Salesforce credentials and such. You're going to authenticate your Asana like you normally would when logging into Asana. You would just click add new authentication, name it whatever name you choose, so my auth. And then you can do your normal Asana authentication. If you're already logged into Asana in your browser, it will automatically log in for you, and you will not need to retype your credentials. We'll be choosing a workspace that we want to create projects in, so I'm going to choose Trade.io. We're going to choose a team as well. For this, I can just choose Trade.io Dev. And then the way this integration works is when an opportunity is created, most people for their sales team will have a pre-configured, essentially, list of tasks they'd like their team to complete. So we've actually configured this in another window, but you'd have a template, which is essentially just a project. There we go. You can choose a template, which is essentially just a project that has a pre-configured list of tasks, and we're going to duplicate that in Asana and assign the project name from Salesforce to it, so you'll know which task to complete. Then the Salesforce part's as easy as adding your authentication, and once again, it's the normal way of adding your auth as you would normally logging into Salesforce. So we would allow that there. I've actually already added my auth behind the scenes, so I don't need to do this. So I'm going to deny that. So what we're going to do, since I already have this configured, is we're going to go to my workflows, and you see I have my create Asana projects from new Salesforce opportunities here. This is already enabled. So this right now, since it's enabled, you can see at the bottom right, it's listening for new Salesforce opportunities created. It is an instant trigger. So as soon as the opportunity is created, this will fire off immediately. So now I'm going to pop over to my Salesforce account and create a new opportunity. So I have this account set up for demo purposes. We're just going to create a new opportunity here. We're going to name it testing, so everyone in sales knows that this is just a test op. Evaluation, add all the required fields, obviously. All right, you'll notice as soon as I click the save, we'll have a new log step. These are the logs here. This monitors workflow runs. You'll see that it's live at the bottom here, so it's listening for new events. So we'll save it. And you see it's running immediately. There we go. So it's getting the opportunity, determining if they have an account in Salesforce. grabbing Asana users and assigning accordingly. It's grabbing the template in Asana that we have listed in our QST configuration. It's copying it right now. This takes a little longer than other steps because it has to copy all the tasks and subtasks. Depending on how large your project is, this can take varying amount of time. This takes exactly the amount of time it would take to duplicate a project natively in Asana.
And yeah, just to jump in there, Andrew. So the way this copy project step works is that it will enable you to, as Andrew said, it will copy all of the tasks and subtasks from your template project, but it will actually also copy things like assignees, custom fields, etc. So what you can do with this workflow is effectively build a standard way of working inside Asana for each of your Salesforce opportunities. And then, as and when those new opportunities are created, that will then have the standardized set of subtasks complete with the custom fields, etc., ready to go in Asana, assigned to the relevant sales rep or sales engineer, etc.
Exactly. And this demo, we're only duplicating a template. There are plenty of options for configuring, moving over custom tasks that have any criteria from your Salesforce opportunity. If you wanted to map over any of the detail that exists in this op, every single field can be mapped into Asana in any way that you'd like. So we could pull, if you're using a client hierarchy, a team hierarchy, we can pull the team name and list your opportunity under a team, which may map to an account. Tons of cool stuff like that. So then we're going to jump into our Asana, and we see testing op has been created. Help desk. This is the way that we formatted it, just the name of the opportunity, and in the parentheses for the demo, we have the name of the account. We've copied 5 tasks with some custom fields in them, such as priority, number of users, browser, documentation URL. That was a very quick demo. Let's go to the bones and see what type of questions are coming in.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, we had a few questions that were sent over in advance. I can see we've also got a couple of questions that have come in on the webinar so far as well. So the first one is very much around documentation and guides. So the question is specifically whether there's some kind of setup guide for getting a Salesforce integration set up with Asana. And the good news is we do. So Andrew, if you wouldn't mind just flicking over to the documentation article,
sure.
Which demonstrates that. So we have this is our documentation portal. We've got a lot of different guides and tutorials like this. But what this documentation article goes through is very much the sort of step-by-step criteria for getting up and running. You'll notice there's also some prerequisites, such as being a Salesforce admin, being a paid Asana customer, etc. But the majority of this is very much setup focused. So it shows many of the steps that Andrew just went through.
All right, let's see, what else do we have? So we have someone asking if a bi-directional sync is possible between Asana and Salesforce. We actually do have that as an option. If you go to the templates on our website, so going to Tray, then clicking on our library, we can navigate to Asana. So we see here, let's see, where is this list? Right here. Actually, I think a better place to look at this might be in the dashboard and looking at our library there. We just migrated to a new view. Let's see, so we're going to do Asana. All right, so these are the directions that our syncs, our pre-configured syncs can go. So we have a few going from Salesforce to Asana. We also have one right now out of the box that goes from Asana back to Salesforce. Sometimes what we do is, like the sync I just showed you, we'll create that custom project in Asana after mapping over from Salesforce when the opportunity is created. then when tasks are created in Asana on that opportunity, we can map them back over to the opportunity. So, so the way that looks, we would just map them under activities, so as tasks under open activities. So that's useful for if you have multiple teams working out of different services. Maybe part of your team works out of Salesforce only, part of your team works out of Asana, but they both need visibility. This is a great way to make sure that everyone's in the know about the status of projects. As well, we also have syncs where you can have managers who are working out of Salesforce create tasks here, which map over to Asana, so that your devs, your sales personnel can complete them in a timely fashion. That one's listed right here. Sync Salesforce tasks into Asana as tasks. So as soon as you create it, it finds the Asana user, creates a task with any specific information you're interested in, such as the description of the task, the project it's associated to. It also gives them a Salesforce URL in case they need to see additional information. And then it assigns it to the user who's supposed to complete that task.
Yes, sorry, Andrew. Another question just come in, specifically around creating tasks in Asana rather than projects. So the specific question is focused around saying actually there's too many projects already in our Asana. We don't want to create any more. So this is actually something we get asked reasonably often. Is it possible to create tasks in Asana with a bunch of standardized subtasks for each opportunity, and then usually you'd go and create that standard task for each opportunity within a project called opportunities or UK opportunities, EMEA opportunities. So the good news is yes, there's actually a documentation article in that docs portal as well, which goes through the step-by-step guide specifically for that. There's a few subtle differences, but largely speaking, it's the same. So we have another question here, specifically around sales teams working in multiple regions. So what happens if we have a sales team in the UK, a sales team in Europe, and a sales team in the US? But actually, we only want to install this Asana integration in for the US team to start with, and all of those teams are using the same Salesforce instance. So assuming there's a few different things to consider here, but assuming everyone's using that same instance, as you say, what we can do actually is we can set up some filtering logic. So we effectively only show we only create those projects for US teams. So this actually takes advantage of one of the more powerful features of the Tray platform. So obviously Andrew's been showing this demo previously. But what makes up the way one of these integrations works between tools like Asana and Salesforce is actually a lot of the conditional logic, which you can see just here. So we've got various different steps to say only take action if these particular criteria are satisfied. So in this case, we could create a workflow. Let's call this region specific. We could do something as simple as let's watch for opportunity creations, and then if they are from a particular region, only then, so let's label this from the US, only then should we actually create the project in Asana. And there's, as you can see just there, and obviously this is a very quick visual demonstration, but this exact same logic can be applied to that template that Andrew was looking through. And actually, just to elaborate on that point, it is actually possible to set up different criteria, different flows for different regions. So it might well be, it's very common, that the sales team in the US and sales team in Europe are working largely independently. They just happen to be using the same Salesforce instance. And in that case, you could you could install this workflow, this template twice, and then have a conditional logic in each one. Or indeed, you could actually say, do you know what, let's have separate criteria, separate steps to go through down the other branch. So you can see if it's US, it goes down this true branch. If it's not, it goes down this false branch. So there's a lot of flexibility here.
That's great. We also have another question. What if I'm not using Salesforce? So these syncs are totally possible, as we saw in our introductory presentation. There's several services Asana can integrate with. So we're going to show, it looks like they're interested in ProsperWorks specifically. So essentially, we do not have a pre-configured template for ProsperWorks, but it's as simple as changing these connectors out. You can just delete them and then add in a ProsperWorks connector that does the exact same thing. The great part about these templates is it's really just kind of a framework for building different integrations. So we have a giant services list. You can see it if you go to our library and then click on services. We can integrate with all of these items. So if you see your CRM in here, whether it's ProsperWorks, whether it's Base, anything that you use personally, it's essentially as easy as swapping out the connector in this pre-built template and then changing a couple of the configuration steps. So, at the end of this, for example, let's see, this is syncing Salesforce into Asana. So I think an easier example would be syncing Asana tasks into Salesforce. So we just edit the workflow, and then just as a quick example here, there should be a create task down here. So this would just essentially map to ProsperWorks. We could create a person, we could create a task as well. And we could see that this task is being created with a subject that is mapping to this loop. We can put in any ProsperWorks criteria that we'd like here as well. But you could also do, any of our other services. You could put base here, anything that is really relevant to your use case.
Great. So another quick question I've just seen is specifically around Asana templates and what they actually are. So actually, this is more straightforward than you'd think. So a template in Asana is a common way of working. Asana has a copy project functionality and also a copy task functionality built into Asana. So this is something that integrations aside, this is a common workflow inside Asana. So let's say you had new hires. Every single time you had a new hire start at your organization, you wanted to take them through a set of standardized onboarding steps. Invite them to Slack, set up their email account, etc. What a typical way of working is to create kind of a template project, a generic project, which you're going to use for every single new starter. And that will have, within that project, that will have all of these standard set of tasks that you have. So invite to Slack, set up email account, etc. And then what you can use this as a template and then copy this for each individual starter. So this is a very common workflow in Asana to help you to follow this standardized process. And really where Tray comes in here is we're enabling a similar workflow. The difference is that this is an integration. This is automated. This is automatically creating that project from that generic template project for each opportunity as it comes in from Salesforce. And it's worth noting as well, this can work for opportunities, this can work for accounts, or other custom objects in Salesforce as well.
Cool. So we have another question. I don't see my service on your list, but I'm interested in integrating with Asana. I'm not sure exactly what service they're referring to, but we have an internal tool, and per request, we're able to create these connectors in just a couple of days for you. We'll essentially spec out what exactly you're interested in, and we're happy to kind of develop something on the fly for you to connect. In a similar, we actually have a related question for that. I want to migrate my data into Asana from a program that's not on your list. There's a few ways to do this. I've actually done a large migration in the past from a tool called FunctionFox. We decided that the data set that they wanted from FunctionFox, it would be the best way to do it was to do an export of a CSV. So essentially we exported a CSV with all of their projects and tasks into a Google Sheet. Then we took that Google Sheet and ran through it, and I think they had somewhere in the realm of 600,000 tasks, and mapped it all into their Asana instance. So we had a column that represented the team, the project, the task name, etc. We obviously did a little bit of data cleanup on the export, but it was a great way to take a legacy software system and map it into Asana. There's also people in the past that have requested that we sync Asana into a more legacy software system. They're not ready to completely migrate over. They want to do something that's kind of more of a bi-directional sync. So we can spin up one of these connectors for you, which essentially connects to the API, breaks the data down into its elemental parts, and then we create a data mapping. So we move all relevant data into Asana so your new team can start getting acquainted with it. And we also keep your current instance up to date, so your old team doesn't feel like they're missing data, or there's not a data or communication discrepancy there.
Quick question here on a bit of a different note. More of a technical ask, specifically whether this integration uses any kind of Apex code or requires a Salesforce package to be installed. The good news is no, there's no code. This is very much designed for it's focused on non-technical, non-programming users, which is great. And there's actually no packages to install on your Salesforce instance as well. So behind the scenes, as Andrew said, we're connecting with the Salesforce REST API and also the Asana API as well. But in terms of the nitty-gritty and the complexities behind that, we've effectively built in the logic in these connectors that Andrew's been talking about, such that actually you don't need to be a programmer to connect these different systems together.
All right, let's see. Looking back at the sheet, let's see.
So I think we're out of Salesforce questions now. If there's any more, feel free to add them in the Q&A software. We'll just give it 20 seconds or so, and then we can move over to the Google Forms side of things. There's a quick one here, specifically around whether I need to be an admin of Salesforce to install this Salesforce Asana integration. Yes, the answer is yes. You do need to be an admin. That's one of the standard prerequisites that you need to go through to actually to get up and running with this. So if you're not a Salesforce admin, then what we usually recommend is that you loop in your Salesforce admin. You can send them a documentation article, or indeed, we're very happy to jump on a call with yourselves to answer any questions and walk through the integration and how it works for your business. One more, which is specifically around the version of Salesforce that you need to run this integration. So at the moment, this integration works for if you're on the Enterprise edition of Salesforce or higher. I believe it's called Lightning Enterprise now. So if you're on one of the, I think it's the group or the basic editions, currently this integration isn't available, but I know it will be available fairly soon, in the next couple of months. So hold fire if you're on those editions, but we should be able to help there as well.
All right, we have another question. Do you allow us to, if we want to write code, this is more for the technical users, if we want to write code on Tray, can we? We do have an option. We have a script connector that you're free to use. It accepts, there are 4 libraries that it accepts. Let me bring these up real quick in our documentation. And also, documentation is a great place if you have any questions. You just scroll to the bottom and click on Docs. So we'll just go to the script connector. Oh, clicked on loop connector. Oh, here we go. So we support JavaScript, the Lodash, Mount, Request, and Moment libraries. So you're welcome to just pass in variables here that come directly out of your API calls or out of any connector logic. And then you can just write plain text code in here and do anything you'd like.
Okay, great. Well, I think we can probably move on from the Salesforce side of things now. So, shifting tack slightly over to the Google Forms integration. So this is a much more straightforward integration, but it's a very common one that we see. And this is something that we're working with a major social network provider to integrate Google Forms with Asana. Now, the classic example here is very much around standardizing process again. So Asana is great at getting more work done about getting that process nailed down. But a very common scenario, as we've got on the screen just here, a very common scenario is when you have a team working out of Salesforce or another system, and a team working out of Asana. Now they each have different concerns, and very often it's quite easy to fall into the trap of sending lots of emails back and forth, and actually when it comes down to getting things done, to following a standardized process, you end up in this awkward situation where you have, say, a salesperson asking for some design resource from the design team, but they haven't actually given the designers the full detail. They haven't given them the deadline. They haven't given them all the individual customer details, collateral, etc. So the design team is kind of at ends as to what they're supposed to do. And at the same time, the sales team can get frustrated because because effectively the design team isn't able to deliver on what they need as soon as possible. So a very common workflow, a way of effectively approaching this problem, is through the use of forms. So rather than sending lots of emails back and forwards or sending Slack messages between teams that can quite easily get lost, this forms approach is one which says, when you want my team to do something for your team, fill in this form, and then when you fill in that form, then actually the design team or anyone else, they know what needs to be done. They have the full details because all the fields have been marked as required. And it also means that as updates happen related to that form, that the requester can get notified. So that's a very common workflow that we see built on Tray.
And it's a great way to make forms more dynamic. Depending on which drop-down, depending on which team you select from the form, we can do assignments. So once you pump the form into our workflow builder, we can apply any type of logic to it depending on which fields are selected. So say you have a specific team that's selected and you want to assign 5 individual people in Asana only if that team is selected. We can easily make that assignment. We can also pull in due dates, create subtasks that are only exist if certain form criteria are selected. So once we essentially take that basic, very static form and make it very dynamic by pumping it through Tray. We're going to give it a...
we just have one more question come in. So specifically on related to Google Forms, but kind of the opposite workflow. Is it possible for Tray to export Asana data into a Google Sheet for reporting purposes? The answer is yes. naturally, different reporting requirements vary based on what you're looking to do. So obviously, different teams have different custom fields. You have different specific projects that you're looking to work through. But yes, it's absolutely possible. The great thing is about the way the Asana and the Google Sheets connectors have been built on Tray is that you actually you have all the data at your fingertips. So if you want to go and export all tasks within one individual project, you can. If you want to export all projects, again, you can. So the kinds of things you can enable is Google Sheet charts that are live updated. So you can very quickly go to them, see them as a dashboard, and then say, okay, how many tasks have my team completed in this project in the last week, for example. So that's the kind of thing you can do. As I mentioned, it varies quite a bit based on your requirements, but there's a lot of flexibility here, which is quite exciting.
All right, we're going to give it a 20 seconds or a minute and wait for more questions to come in. It's a great time to ask if you have anything that's kind of on your mind. You've been waiting for us to give a quick pause. We're happy to answer.
Great. I think there hasn't been any more questions come in, so we'll probably start to wrap up now. Just passing over to Andrew on the resources side of things.
Yeah. So if you're interested in more information, or if you want a personal demo, you're free to go to our website, and there's a few quick call to actions you can click on and get that information. You're also welcome if you just want to build and you don't need to talk to us immediately. You're welcome to start a free trial. All trials are 14 days. You have unlimited access to the platform. For extreme high volume users, there's a small limitation. If you're giving us over 100 events per second, which isn't too common, we'll limit that. But hey, if you need a more fully fleshed trial, just reach out and we can figure out something that works out for both of us. You're also free to go to this URL here and reach out for support directly. We also have an intercom window at the bottom right that you can chat. We have offices in San Francisco and London, so we're on that close to 24 hours a day. Feel free to ask any questions you have in there, and we'll jump on a quick screen share and get you going. Also, some useful links here at the bottom. You can click on these. We'll be sending this webinar out after, but they give some great information about the partnership and also a little bit about popular integrations and good use cases that we found Tray to be relevant for.
Great, guys. Well, that was really informative office hours on Asana and all things integration automation. And with that, I'd like to bid the audience. Thank you for your attention and all your questions, and we'll look forward to the next webinar with Tray. Thank you.
Bye, guys.